In a world full of things in your ears, about things in your ears, there's podcasts about podcasts. And we're that podcast that we're talking about. We're talking about podcasts on a podcast. It's wild, man. What's up with podcasts? It's Neon Pocket Dimension, everybody. That's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about podcasts. My name is Gage, a.k.a. Luke Shot First, and I am here with my oh-so-special co-host. Say hello, co-host. Let's start with Steven, the singer bro. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Excellent. Glad to be here. We're going to talk about some of our favorite pods tonight. Let's see. With me also is the Dungeon Master himself, Jacob Jones, a.k.a. OM Jesus. What's up, dude?
Pausecast? That's like a cat podcast. I like it.
I like
Pause?
I like
the
it.
Pausecast.
Meow.
Or it's like pausecast, like pause that cast. You know what I'm
Are you
saying?
talking about pauses or like
No, like pause.
Cat
Yeah,
pause.
like it could
pause.
be a cat. It could be a dog.
An
Dogs
animal,
have.
but
Yeah.
no, it's gonna be cat centric.
But I feel like a cat podcast, and yes, with the PAW the cast, would just be them making that weird sound when they see like a bird or like a bug, where they go yeah.
Where they chitter.
Yeah, the chitter. You know that one, Steven?
yeah,
Okay,
I know the chitter.
cool. You know that one?
And finally, don't forget about Miguel. He's there, the boxcar man
I'm
himself.
always,
Tell me the origin of the
always-
boxcar. Where does that come from?
it's a Simpsons reference.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't
Simpsons
know.
did it. Simpsons did it.
Homer it's the one with Mike Tyson essentially. Give it a
Oh,
watch.
okay. Fantastic. Well, this is Neon Pocket Dimension. If you don't know, now you know. It's a strange and lovely reality where all things nerdy exist in harmony. And this week we are talking what else but podcasts. So yes, we're going to nerd about the very thing that we make here. A little bit of housekeeping. Neon Pocket Dimension is streamed live right here on twitch.tv/Neon Pocket Dimension Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're here watching live right now, you already know you're here. But if you miss it live, you can also check it out on YouTube or your favorite podcast service. It comes out on Fridays, usually between like 11 and 1, depending on what's going on there. And if you enjoy our content anywhere, please give it a like, subscribe, leave a review. That'd be amazing. And we really it helps us reach more lovely people. The biggest thing you can probably do is tell your friend about it. Like if you hear our podcast and you're like, oh, I heard these funny douchebags on a podcast the other day. You should really check them out.
Whoa,
Make it so.
I know I'm personally I'm really good at cleaning out
You should-
anuses. So
Speak for yourself.
As if. Yeah, I clean out innards of people all the time. There you go.
Yeah, it's about right.
So if you like
My anus always bleeding.
all that is holy! My anus is bleeding!
So if you like any of that, tell your friends about it, and then it really helps us get the word out. That's fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Couple of videos I want you to check out just because they're fun that we've been doing lately. Over on our Neon Gaming Dimension channel, which is our kind of sub channel where we talk all things games and we get to nerd out and about the nitty gritty with a little bit of a separate feed, so you can just stick to all things gaming over there. By the way, thanks for the tier 1 sub, Robo Bartender. We're happy to have you.
Hey,
But yeah, if you go over there, there's a couple of videos that have come out recently. Steven and I did a Neon topic discussion podcast. That's our little kind of smaller bite-sized podcast where we talk about like a single topic in the gaming industry. So we've done things like about next-gen hardware, and this one was about Destiny and the future of Bungie and Destiny in general. That was a fun episode. Also over there, Steven and Jacob did a reaction to the ID at Xbox showcase that just recently happened. It was cool. It's kind of a rapid reacts where each of them just spit like 3 words it's informational and quick and easy. So it's a really good digestible way to consume that showcase. And then also Jacob and I did a little, not full playthrough, but a gaming session of Bread and Fred, which was really fun. And that was a really fun Let's Play to do. So yeah, lots of good content over there. I just want to shout it out. Give it some love. But without further ado, enough rigmarole for you. we're going to talk about our titular WYBNOO, which is the what you've been nerding out on. It's patented. It's in the Library of Congress. Don't look it up. It's there. It's just letting you know. So yes, we are going to go through and just give us a little what you've been playing, what you've been watching, or what you've been nerding out on in general. If it's beer or knitting or whatever.
Make it so.
Like. Make it so. Exactly. Let's start with Jacob this week because you're back from the dead. You're no longer sick. You're feeling good.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I had to blow my nose before we started the podcast, but like miles ahead.
Great.
Even at work, we have this new whiskey we're carrying at our locations, and I was coughing a little, and my coworker was like, "You want to try this whiskey? It'll help coat your throat." And I said, "All right, I'll give it a taste." I forget what it's called, like Traveler, Travester, Traversal, or something like that. It was smoky. It was pretty good. But that's where I'm at right now. You know what I mean? My WYBNOO this week. First of all, I'm playing Pokemon Gen 2, but the remake version. So I'm playing Heart Gold on my phone. That's right, people. I'm finally playing more Pokemon. Only beat Gen 1, so I'll beat Gen 2. I just evolved my weird wool, like sheep electric Pokemon into some other form that's pink or some shit. I don't know. I just got my second badge. I'm doing it, man. I'm just grinding, and because I'm emulating it, allegedly, it's all in fast forward, so I just grind. It takes way less time. It's easy peasy. Also, I just started BattleBot Season 8. That show is getting better and better. The last season that's on HBO Max is 9, so I'm almost fully caught up. But just want to say shout outs to the captain of Riptide. That guy's fucking so funny. He like screams every time he wins and stuff, and he's just like an overall great driver. And I like Riptide. That's a great bot. But again, like I always say, BattleBots, watch it. It's a great show. A lot of great engineering going on in there. Violent stuff. There's, some bots are full of fire and fuel.
Pyrotechnics, all the good stuff.
So sometimes
Are
they
we
explode.
being sponsored by BattleBots now?
No, I mean, maybe one day. Look, I already said I'll just be a BattleBots influencer. I don't care. I'm down.
Is that even a thing?
I could easily be the first one. You know what I mean?
Look, guys,
excellent.
I am the example.
I like Huge. I like Shatter, even though Shatters doesn't always win, but it's a great bot. It's a hammer bot. So like a more unconventional bot, because most of the bots are just, they got either the vertical or horizontal spinners that are spinning at like 200 miles per hour with massive metal hunks. So they do like massive damage. But like a bot that just has a super powerful fucking massive hammer that hammers down on bots and tries to break their circuitry. I mean, that's cool to break the mold,
If it gets them, it usually is pretty effective. It just feels like it's hard to like nail it down.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I like about Shatter is that it's omnidirectional movement. So he's good at like positioning himself, and the bot is pretty durable. But the bout I just saw was against Huge, which is a massive bot, and he had a blade arm on, so it's just kind of a different type of fight. But I'll always beat the drum of Shatter. But like I said, Huge, Shatter, Mammoth, and the frog bot, Ribot. I love Ribot.
Oh, it's
Ribot's fucking amazing. And if you do buy a Ribot shirt, they donate to like the Save the Frogs Foundation too. So like I'm all about that stuff.
I love it.
But
you think one day we'll be seeing like those Boston Dynamics robots fighting each other?
That's what
and we'll get some real steel.
That's what I'm thinking too. Well, even before that, like I could see eventually robotics coming to like standardize like the dog robot kind of model more. I could see like those things being covered in like spinning saws and shit. So who knows? For now, it's more of like it's closer to an RC car armed to the teeth. But it's still like a robot, like your Roomba is a robot, and it's people controlling them with RC stuff, but it's like they're made out of like heavy metals and like it takes a lot.
It's crazy, dude.
What's that?
I watched them make one of the bots. And
Yeah.
that shit is crazy.
It's insane. Like it's really sophisticated, like engineering. So when we did go see BattleBots live, like the guy who one of the co-creators of the show was like, I just want to make I wanted to make smart people famous, and that was kind of how he worded it. And I'm like, I get that, because everybody on
That's
that, all the bot teams, it's just a bunch of really smart people who are like engineering like badasses, and it's a lot of college kids too. But it's just such a good, like, it is a sport. It's an awesome one too. And I recommend it. It's, if you like esports, you would love BattleBots. That's another way to pitch it. It's just that it's almost like they're building the game that they're fighting in a way, right? Also, Sea of Thieves Season 12, Arturo, Robot Butler in the chat. Robo Bartender, not Robot Butler. I just want a Robot Butler. We've talked about this before, so it just slips out. Freudian slip. But we played Sea of Thieves Season 12 last night. They added some new shit in there. They have a throwing dagger, which is pretty cool, although hard to Bob Butler, hard to replace the sword with the knife, because the stabs are like a lot less damage and you can't block, but you can stab people. So I feel like if we had a more built out kind of, set of weapons, I could have maybe used it, but because it was just the two of us, I was like, I need that sword. But they added that throwing knife, which does some good damage, and it's pretty interesting. They also added in a double barreled pistol, which you can either shoot the barrels independently or like shoot them both at the same time to do a little extra damage. Like, I thought that was cool. I used it all last night. But overall, the game is in really good health. The PS5 launch just happened. The patch dropped yesterday. There's also, like, you can walk along harpoon lines, so then you could like get onto islands easier now, or board ships a different way, which is really interesting. Cool. And they've added zip lines to like most of the islands too, so like now there's just even more ways of getting around. But them just adding more weapons is pretty insane. So again, go out there, especially if you have Game Pass, play Sea of Thieves with me. It's a fun game, really intense session. We got into some BVP. We got attacked by like multiple skeleton ships. We went on like voyages. It was, you jump into that game and it's just guaranteed a fun time. It's just like takes a little bit of getting used to if you're not super into it. And finally, I just want to shout out that I've been playing Fallout 76. That game is great. Nice. It continues to be great. That's kind of like, I bought it at release. We all know it had a troubled release, but that's why I never beat it. There's been a lot of updates to it, so there's a whole bunch more content to do, but I want to at least try to beat like the main like story, if you will, and be able to like launch a nuke myself. So that's kind of the main goal. It's sort of like getting to the end game. Although like there's no end game. Like some people are like level 2000 something. It's like it just never ends. So I'm just gonna get mostly to the end. Dragon's Dogma 2, still playing that too. But beyond that, that's what I wrote down. Those are the things I want to talk about today.
Fuck yeah, dude. With Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I know you haven't played much Pokemon. Are you? You think you're gonna see it through to the end? You're feeling good about it?
For sure. It's just my mobile game right now. You know what I mean? So
totally.
When I'm when I'm on the treadmill, I'm just like grinding or whatever. It's just like emulation is just making this easy. You know what I mean? Like before, I was like literally using Chrome or remote desktop to play Balatro on my PC, like from afar, like. Using my finger as the mouse, which is still cool, but I'm just like, I don't know, since all the iPhone users got emulators, it just got me one to like fuck around. And then I was like, all right, everybody's always talking about Pokemon. I liked Gen 1 back in the day. Why don't I just play through the next one? And then Heart Gold, I did a poll, Heart Gold or Soul Silver, and Heart Gold went out. And I was like, it's kind of the red version anyway. And I liked red. So I started with the fire Pokemon. Right now I have an Onyx. I got, like I said, that electric sheep that just evolved. I got a Pidgeot.
Flaffy.
I got, Flaffy. I got Togepi.
So androids are dreaming about your Pokemon.
Yes, they are. But yeah, having fun, we'll see how far we'll see how many I catch if I stick with that portion, but I'll definitely beat it. Oh, sure,
yeah. I rarely do the catch to the fill the whole Pokedex version of
I want to at
playthrough,
least
but-
get some like OP ones and just crush the final battle and then move on to the next one. Because I did this with Final Fantasy. I beat 3, 4, and 5, and I'm like 40% through 6, all mobile. It's just an easier way to like beat retro games. I mean, you beat Chrono Trigger on your phone, so same kind of thing.
It was really nice because it was just like one of those things where it's like, oh, there's like so little barrier to entry.
Yep. So I mean, I recommend it allegedly, but like at least with Final Fantasy, you can buy the pixel remasters, so you can do those legit, or you could allegedly not. Goodbye.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, let's move on to Mr. Steven. What you been playing? What you been watching? What you been doing?
Yeah, mostly games.
Hell yeah! I like to hear it.
I mean, I guess I picked up watching Superstore, and that's been pretty funny. So
Sweet.
That's what I've heard.
Really enjoyed that with my girlfriend, and like we just sit there cracking the hell up.
It's so good.
So, yeah, loving that. That's my TV thing though, which is always usually like either nothing or super small. But
Totally.
Lego 2K Drive is the first game I want to kind of talk about.
Ooh, okay.
It's on Game Pass now. I just like fuck it, because it looked like a fun Lego game to kind of just fuck around with when I was stoned, right? But you go from the cool part about it is like it's got like fully animated scenes like the Lego movies, right? When they do the cutscenes. So that is really cool. The production quality is really high there. And then the world is huge. And the big thing, at least for me, was when you go off-road, your vehicle automatically transforms into an off-road vehicle.
Oh, nice.
And when you switch to water, it does the same thing, right? And so like seamlessly, like you don't stop to switch, it just goes and swaps as you're driving. Which I thought was really cool. Yeah, and again, the writing is funny so far. I played about like 3 hours of it. But yeah, I'll probably go back to it.
And you're getting to design your own car? That's
yeah,
so
you
cool.
can design your own cars as well.
That's so cool.
Nice.
I guess like there was like a drama around like microtransactions at launch or something like that, and so it kind of got binned by a lot of people. So no, but the game is pretty good so far.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Damn.
Next, I wanted to touch on just more Balatro. I have hit a wall finally. I was on a streak there for a while, and now I hit a wall with like you only get one consumable slot, and it has telescope though for like, so it'll keep your most played hand is going to be in the planet packs that you pull, right?
I see.
Like it'll always be there if you have the telescope. But it's automatic for that deck. But the temptation is, okay, well, I'll just do flush strategy or this kind of strategy. But if you do that, you pigeonhole yourself into like when they throw things like, this suit is disabled or this thing is happening.
Totally.
Stupid fucking boss blinds make that game unplayable.
It is frustrating. It's like, oh, my entire build is completely ruined.
Yep, it happens to me
There was
all the
one
time.
I had was like, okay, all of my cards are face cards. And then I was playing around that strategy, right? Like face cards, and then this would add this thing to face cards. If you played a face card, it would do this, right? Theoretically a good idea. But when they say all face cards are disabled, you have to sell that Joker.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it definitely fucks your strategy with that way. And but I think though that makes it interesting and less predictable, right?
Sure.
Yeah, it makes you also probably change up your playstyle, which like I found like at least with Marvel Snap, which isn't the same thing at all, but like there was such a meta to that game that I was just playing the same 2 or 3 decks over and over and over again, and like I just kind of got bored because I was like, all right, well I'm not really feeling the need to strategize out, and they would change things like during their seasonal drops and stuff, but it didn't ever like really make me fully abandon a deck or something like that. Where this sounds like it's fully like, nope, you just can't use that deck or whatever.
Yep.
You know.
Like
Yeah.
you have to plan multiple strategies and synergies at once. I feel like.
Yeah, you want to have two avenues, but then to what extent are you shooting yourself in the foot by doing that?
Are you destroying the one avenue by trying to chase both, right?
When I talked to, I think, Golden Spider, which, shout outs. I haven't seen that guy in a while, dude, but I saw him in the chat the other day, and he said, a game is 90% luck. And I said, this is why I haven't beaten a deck.
Guess I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
6.
mean, I'm not trying to avoid your skills. I'm just saying that.
No. I think, though, that there is a lot of luck.
Yeah.
You can only strategize so much.
Yep.
It's about thinking on the fly, I guess.
One of these days, I'll lose myself to the game, but I haven't been able to do it yet.
It's those roguelikes in general, or like this anyway,
They're my bread and butter. I love roguelikes, so
Nice.
Destiny 2 is the next thing I wanted to touch on.
Wow.
After talking about it, right? I started it up again, right? It had been like 2 weeks or so since I touched it at least, so picked it back up, and then they added like a boss rush mode, and that's really fucking cool.
That's really cool.
So like you're facing different raid bosses, I believe, and encounters all in a row, right?
Cool.
And they get progressively harder, and they added a horde mode. Like that's a really good horde mode. And it's fun to play. It is tough. There's 50 waves and stuff, just like legitimate, like a Gears of War would have, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it's like fully fleshed out like that. The weapons are awesome and fun to chase. You've got shiny weapons now, which are uber rare, right? So when you see them, like that's really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and obviously it still feels great to play. That's my Destiny 2 minute though. If you want more, go check out our video.
We got a whole video about it. It's good.
And then Ollie Ollie World was the last thing I wanted to say.
Dude, hell yeah.
That game fucking rips.
It rules, dude. It's so
It's cool.
fun.
I am not great at it right now, but I'm excited to get better and be able to combo the tricks together in a better way than I am now. Instead of using just a manual to a grind to a manual,
In my experience, it did a pretty good job at like slowly introducing you to new elements and like having each like little world area like bring in a new thing. And like by the end of that game, I felt like I was just naturally really good at it. But then I put it down for a little while and came back and was like, oh, I'm trash again. And like, like you kind of have to keep up with it.
Because I played Ollie Ollie 2, I believe. And I love that game. But it was like 2D, right?
Yeah.
It was. And so it adds a little bit of dimension with it, especially when you can swap to the gnarly path, they call it.
Yeah, I like the gnarly path most of the time.
But I'm like, every time I want that gnarly path, but it's like, okay, but how many times am I going to want to repeat this and get it perfect? So,
Yep.
Such is the grind for that. But yeah, that's my WYBNOO.
Nice, dude. Ollie Ollie World rules. I say stick with it. Also, the soundtrack's really nice. It's kind of just like chill beats to skateboard too. It's so nice.
Yeah, I got it on Switch, so it's just easy to play.
Yeah,
Nice.
totally. That's nice. All right. Let's see, Miguel. I'm gonna pitch to you actually now.
Okay.
What you been nerding out on?
Final Fantasy 16. I'm at the end finally.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
So I have a bunch of quests to do now, obviously, because that's what the game did.
A lot of
Which makes
quests.
sense. But it's all good. So I got all that. I got a bunch of quests to do at some point. But super cool. I'm having a good time. I may purchase the DLC after I finish it, even though technically this is not my copy of the game, so I didn't buy the game. But it's on loan, but it's all good. So I may buy the DLC anyway and see how that goes. Even though I think some of it's like story-wise in the middle somewhere. I think.
Yeah, I think it's in the middle somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, they added Leviathan and they added something else. I think so.
Like
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what I do.
It may give
I don't
us
know if
like
it'll
an
affect
alternate
anything.
ending or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard about that, but I heard
not
it's
sure.
the same actually.
I don't know.
I
Yeah.
mentioned it. Yeah, I heard it didn't change.
Okay.
I don't think it
Nice.
changes the ending, but it is one of those things
No.
where it's like once you've experienced this thing, it seems like the context for the ending maybe changes a little bit.
That makes sense.
That makes more sense.
You don't know the ending yet, so I don't want to talk about
No.
that yet. But we'll
No,
talk
it's all
about
good.
it. Mhm.
But anyway, so I'm there. I'm doing that. I've been doing that. I played Dave the Diver. I think the day after it came out. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'll probably go back to it. I could see that getting frustrated with it and not wanting to play it.
I wanted to pick this game up for a while, like just as like maybe a cozy game, but also not quite cozy. Kind of like Dredge in that way.
I mean, I could see myself playing this for like 30 minutes at a time and then stopping.
Totally.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's fun. It's an interesting idea.
Mhm.
I have not gotten to that part with the weird
Shark squid.
shark
Well,
squid
Spoilers.
or
Spoilers.
shark octopus thing. Yeah,
Let's put that
not
away.
gotten to that part.
Let's put that away.
But I do think it's an interesting concept that you're fishing for the fish and you're running a sushi shop. I do think it's kind of fucked up that Dave kind of gets roped into this bullshit and he's working the restaurant and fishing the fish. It's kind of bullshit. Let's be honest. With
Right? Like, dude's doing everything. Hire somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, hire somebody. I know they have the chef, but like, come on, dude. Really? And then the guy who brought you there is what? He's like the silent investor. Like, fuck off. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it reminds me of
but,
Moonlighter a little bit. Because like Moonlighter,
yeah.
you go into dungeons and you farm for the things that you're going to sell. Like you fight things and they're like a Zelda kind of like, and then you go back with your loot to that, and then it's
Well, see, that's a
that
little
kind of reminds
different.
me of that.
You're
Yeah.
working for yourself at that point.
Yeah.
See,
Yes.
this is different because you're being slaved around.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Moonlighter's a fun
Right?
game.
Like you think you're just like you're gonna go be fishing and like, no, you're running the shop too. But anyway, it's fun. I like it. I think it's fun. It's an interesting concept putting both those types of games together. So that's cool. I'll probably go back to it at some point when I don't know. But so there was that, and then I'm sure I watched something and I don't remember at this point. I watched a lot of things.
Did you watch
Pretty
Fallout?
much why would you? I told you you don't listen, man.
Did you finish it though?
Yeah, I told you I finished it.
I can remember.
I think maybe last podcast he had already finished it.
Yeah.
I just
Come on,
couldn't
dude.
remember. I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't listen.
You
It's
don't-
just I can't remember.
It's because you don't listen.
I can't
There is this
remember.
thing. There's this thing where
Two
once
different
you
things.
finish a podcast, it's like archived
I
forever. You're like,
fucking
don't-
Yeah,
Listen.
exactly.
I could,
So
dude.
these
I can hear
conversations-
what you're saying, but that doesn't mean it's gonna like set in the brain. All right.
Meaning you're not listening.
No, that's listening. It's just that I can't remember. It has nothing to do. I'm hearing it. I'm fucking hearing
the
it.
way
It's not staying.
the way I think listening works is when you listen, you actually retain.
No.
What?
So if you don't retain,
There's two
you
different,
don't listen.
literally two different things. If you look in the dictionary, the word memory and ears
What?
are two fucking different things.
But that is two different things.
Simple.
But it's the concept of listening.
No, stop.
What?
When you don't remember what somebody said.
I can't
you're not
remember
listening.
every little bit of every little thing that's been said. You're fucking crazy
What?
if you think so. You're ridiculous.
On.
Just let me
Just
ask
saying,
a
dude.
question. Just let me ask a question and shut the hell up and answer
What?
it.
It's because you don't fucking listen.
I'm listening.
What?
I am too.
I'm listening right now.
What?
What?
Love it.
What?
Love it.
What?
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 What? What? What? What?
Where did all those what's come from? Why can't I do that?
This is good.
Oh god, we're back to this.
Oh no.
Hey, that's one of the best ones on there.
My mom always said life was like a box of chocolate.
Hell yeah. So speaking of I don't know, problems, guys, I have a problem. I've got a real problem. I am officially a Pokemaniac, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do about it. Last week before maybe, iPhones got emulators on them, and I want to be clear. I own this game, but I am just playing it on a platform that Nintendo does not offer me it on. Look, I'm playing it right now. I have a problem.
On to your butts.
Yeah, exactly. So I've just been playing so much goddamn Fire Red. I've been playing through Fire Red on on the old Delta emulator, and it's bad. My girlfriend literally thought I was in the bathroom masturbating the other day, but I was just fucking giving it to Sabrina, just taking it to the house instead. Because I was in the bathroom for so long, she's like, "What the fuck is happening?" But I just had to finish this gym before I pulled my pants up.
Giving it to Sabrina, huh?
Just
Giving it to Sabrina before I pull my pants up. Before I pull my pants up. No, don't worry, baby. I'm giving it to Sabrina.
Yeah, pull my pants up. Don't worry. It's just Sabrina and her psychic powers.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Is that a pseudo Wodo in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
He is a Pokemaniac.
I'm a Pokemaniac. So yeah, it's bad. I'm also doing it on the treadmill. I'm just doing it in between things at all times, walking my dog. It's really bad. I gotta stop. So
they have therapy for that, right?
Yeah, no, it's not working so far.
But these are my recreation clothes.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's fine. I'll finish it. I'll finish Elite Four, and then I can put it to rest maybe for a while. But yeah, I just got to Cinnabar Island, so I'm about to maybe find the missing no. Actually, the missing no is probably not in Fire Red, huh?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because you probably fix that bug, I would imagine. That's an interesting one. I wonder.
Well, that wouldn't even carry over. It's like brand new code.
Yeah, exactly.
So they'd have to deliberately put it in,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anywho, so yes, that's been a really good time, and it's honestly really nice, but it's bad for productivity in general. I've been watching Shogun, which is fantastic. We had kind of lapsed on that because we wanted to finish Three Body Problem and a couple of the shows we were watching, but we finished those, and so yeah, Shogun's been great. I'm on like episode 5 maybe, and yeah, really liking it so far. It's one of those shows where you got to really pay attention, and there's subtitles and all that stuff. So it's like I usually can only watch about an episode of it before I'm too tired at the end of the night. But it's fine. It's nice to kind of go slowly, and just really cool intrigue. I love Japanese history, and it's got a good angle of kind of like Stranger in the Strange Land, like your perspective, kind of being led into this land through the English dude's journey. And yeah, so I really like it, and just a beautifully shot show too. Gorgeous stuff going on, so that's cool. Kind of Game of Thronesy, but not with magic stuff. But it's cool.
Blackthorn's hilarious.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, it's interesting. Just the perception of Japan and like that whole era of Japan where it was just opening up to the rest of the world, and what that meant for it all and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. It's like that transition between feudalism and kind of the next step in Japan's history. So it's cool if you're a history buff like me. And let's see. Actually, we were talking about this earlier. Maybe it was before the show. But we were talking about MetaQuest a little bit. And actually, I had some house guests the other day, and they had never done VR stuff. So we busted out. It's actually ours is the Oculus Quest 1. So it was before it was called the MetaQuest, but it was cool. We were doing this geoguessing thing where you just pretty much go into the Google Maps. We kind of just made up this game ourselves, but you kind of just go into Google Maps on there, which is like you're in 3D Google like Street View, you know what I mean? And then there's like a random button where it just drops you anywhere in the world. And so it was fun. We were doing this whole geoguessing thing where you have to like guess where you are just based off of like the information around you and stuff. So it was fun. We were kind of making a drinking game out of it, and yeah, it was a good time.
This is geocaching. It's not the same thing.
Not quite.
Yeah, I was
yes,
gonna say, I think that's different.
I always really liked the idea of geocaching, but I've never fully been able. I've never fully done it. You know what I used to do?
Done it.
I used to do back in the day when I was a little hoodlum. I would take USB sticks with my art on it, and I would go up to little walls in the city in SF and just like quick cement them to walls so that you could if you wanted to, like little USB drives that you buy at the store or whatever. And I don't know if anyone ever got anything off of them, but they would just be sticking out of walls. And so if you wanted to connect something to it, you could get some of my art on there. But
unfortunately, I think most people probably did not.
I think that's it's technically vandalism.
Oh, it's definitely vandalism.
I don't even care about that. It's just more the fact that, There could be malware on that shit. I don't know. I'm not plugging that shit in.
Exactly, and that's the problem. I think, like, yeah, you can just be spreading viruses, but
Yeah, well, you could have been putting viruses out and shit. Like, no, dude, no.
Cherry
Trojan
found
gauge horse.
Cherry said that she did it once with her kids, and that they found a painted rock, and that's a real tangible prize. That's not
that's pretty good.
Well,
a
That's pretty
USB
good.
stick that's cemented to the wall.
So during COVID, actually, there was someone in the neighborhood leaving painted rocks out around
That's
the
cool.
neighborhood. So, like, when you were going for walks, you might find a painted rock. We found a couple of them, actually. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Thought it
like
was
that
a neat
kinda
little thing
stuff.
for someone to do. Yeah, that stuff was fun. That's fun. You
I like
should
the
have done
idea
something
of-
like that.
I like the idea of treasure hunting. My friends and a couple of like my group of high school friends that still hang out together. I've talked about like way later in life when we all have enough like just whatever casual income to spend that we can just take a random trip of like all of us like join together to make some sort of like capsule box and then having one of our friends go hide it like somewhere in the world and then leave like a massive treasure hunt to go find it, and then it means like we all end up meeting up in the city and like drinking all the stuff that we put in there or whatever, filling it with like various materials to party with, and also just like cool shit. We'll see. Who knows if that'll ever happen. Anyways, that's WYBNOOing. And then finally, I've just had the Bethesda bug in general. So I had played through some Starfield, and for whatever reason, instead of booting up Fallout, even though that's like the thing that's taken over the timeline and everything, I just booted up Oblivion for whatever reason. One, probably because it's always installed. Morrowind and Oblivion and Skyrim are always installed on my Xbox hard drive because they don't really take up that much room. And so I just jumped into
badass.
And so I just randomly started up an Oblivion playthrough and ended up putting a couple hours into it, and it was just like so serene and nice. And I was listening to Gary Whitta on the Xcast earlier today, and he was talking about like his favorite games are not like games that you play, but places you go to. And those Bethesda worlds, they've just always been ones that I just feel like I just totally jump into. So it was fun. It's kind of a peaceful, relaxing game to play. Other than the intro is a little long, but other than that, good stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And the faces are just. I really didn't like the art style transition from Morrowind to Oblivion. Their facial stuff just really doesn't hold up these days. But the world itself is still really gorgeous, and the creature design is still cool. And
I also thought the voices were better in that instead of like in Oblivion versus Skyrim. Personally, like
feel that. There's some really good writing in Oblivion. Like the main story, I think, is better in that game, and I think some of the side quest stuff is really cool. The Dark Brotherhood saga in that game is one of the best ones, I think. Yeah.
Was that game Mehrunes Dagon?
Yeah, that's the whole one with that, with the Amulet of Kings and like the all that kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah,
the cool the cult of the Mythic Dawn, is that what they're called? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some cool stuff. I like that main quest, I think, better. I mean, the Oblivion gates get kind of annoying when once you've done like 6 of them, you're like, all right, I'm good. But
yeah. That was a unique concept though, because it like transported you to a different type of world kind of thing. Yeah,
it's especially because the main world is so peaceful. Anyways, without further ado, that's enough WYBNOO. Let's move on to our topic of the show. It is podcasts. What we're doing right now. I just kind of wanted to start off with kind of our history of podcasts, but I also wanted to give a quick brief history of podcasts in general. Not really, I'm not going to do anything comprehensive, but apparently the world's first podcast is credited to Christopher Lydon, who was he created radio open source. And then Dave Weiner created the RSS podcast feed. Or like the tech behind an RSS feed, I suppose. And looking at Christopher Lydon real quick, I guess he was an NPR journalist. He had like a technology and internet topic like radio show and blog. And then on his blog, he started doing these long form interviews and just putting them on his blog as like downloadable files, essentially, like that. And that was essentially, it wasn't like on a feed where you could subscribe or anything like that. It was just like, if you went to his blog, you could download these long form interview things. But then eventually, once the RSS feed, he started having those MP3 interview files there, and so he's credited with kind of sparking the growth of podcasting. So that's interesting.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Nice. Makes sense.
And this was in 2003, which is kind of late in my mind. Like for some reason, I mean, I guess obviously I wasn't listening to podcasts in high school, really. I don't think, but like,
I was going to say,
3 is not late.
Are they called podcasts because of the iPod?
Yes,
You're downloading them.
Yes, and it was an Apple thing originally. There was it was called iPodder at the time, which is silly.
Oh yeah,
which it is stupid. Right. So then you have to think, when did the iPod come out?
Yeah. So check it out. This is from Wikipedia. The etymology of the word podcast is a portmanteau of iPod and broadcast. The earliest use of podcasting was traced to the Guardian columnist and BBC journalist Ben Hammersley, who coined it in early February 2004 while writing an article for the Guardian newspaper. The term was first used in the audio blogging community in September 2004 when Danny Gregor introduced it in a message to the iPodder dev mailing list, from where it was adopted by podcaster Adam Curry. Interesting.
Oh yeah, Adam Curry. He's isn't he the Mythbusters guy? Maybe.
No, you're thinking Adam Savage.
Yeah, Adam Savage. You're right. Wow,
he's a VJ. He's a VJ. Yeah,
he's an Adam.
Yeah.
He's been called the Podfather because of his efforts starting podcasting.
Nice. And then I remember in 2005, mostly because I freaking hated this guy, but I remember George Bush was doing a weekly presidential address on a podcast. And yeah, at the time I was fervently against that man. So so I used to kind of hate listening to him sometimes.
I was going to say, in hindsight, he's probably better than the current situation, but we won't get into that.
Yeah. It's mostly his vice and Secretary of War that I wasn't really.
I wouldn't say better, but definitely there's worse people.
I would still say there's worse people.
There's worse people.
I'd rather have that
still
one
a fucking idiot.
The possibility of whatever. Anyway,
remember,
moving on.
Mission accomplished.
Yep.
Did you know that mission accomplished was today was the anniversary of that? Did you know that?
Wow.
No joke.
Wow.
It's either today or yesterday.
GW. Let's go.
Yep. But another quick thing that I saw, though, the term podcast predates Apple's addition of podcasting features to the iPod and the iTunes software. So that term came before.
So it kind of like influenced it. That's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, I was in some ways struggling to remember, like the first time I used or thought about podcasts, really, but I just wanted to go around real fast. We don't have to get into each one of them, but just like what can you remember the first time you thought or consumed a podcast at some point? Start with Steven real quick.
Yeah, so mine was like, I was at work, I was listening to music, I didn't start podcasting until like way later. But I was at work, I think I was at the post office at the time. That was fun. Data entry or whatever. So like long days. But you can't listen to music for that long, like that you know about. I felt like, okay, well, I need to find a good way to discover music and stuff. And so one of the first ones I checked out was like, it started in a playlist essentially on Spotify, automatically for whatever reason. But it was Call of the Wild by like, there's a Monster Cat, which is like an electronic.
Oh yeah, I know Monster Cat.
Big label, right? Like big.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest, but they did like a weekly cast of like showing basically a blend of all the new shit from all their new people.
That's cool.
Oh, and like some of the older ones, obviously they'll do that. But that one's usually about the new music, and like there was always new music and it was always interesting. So I was like, okay, this is awesome. This is what podcasts are. And then I was like, okay, well, I got bored, and then I'll talk about this one later. But yeah.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot more podcasts at the beginning, I think, were music centric because it was a way to broadcast music without getting licensing for it. Because at the time, it was just the total Wild West, and so you could just put music anywhere on there, which was kind of interesting. Miguel, do you remember what your first one might have been?
It was probably This American Life, to be 100% honest with you. And I don't know if you've ever listened to that show or not, but it's been on, 20 plus years at this point as a radio show. And they started doing podcasts after the fact. It was either that or Radio Lab. I don't honestly remember which one, but I would say that's the more type of podcast that I like. You know, it's good storytelling.
Totally.
Especially This American Life if you've never listened to it. Ira Glass, I think, has pioneered that in my opinion.
The goat. The goat for sure.
The stories can get really, really interesting, very deep, really crazy. And if you listen to Radio Lab, they're very, very, very informative. So, but yeah, it was probably This American Life.
Cool.
Nice.
Mine was in some ways similar to Steven's, where mine was Jacob made fun of me earlier saying this isn't really a podcast, but it was. I mean, it was on Apple Podcasts. You know, this is where I
doesn't matter. It's a radio show, but continue.
It was called the Bass. It was called the Bass Nectar Transition. Which, if you remember Bass Nectar, he's a little bit. Hindsight, his music isn't the best, but it was pretty fun, anyways. It's you know.
Hey, Bass Nectar was cool. All right.
It
Crazy
was cool at a time.
Dubstep, baby.
It was, I went to a Bass Nectar show once, and it was just a bunch of like ecstasied out 16-year-olds like finger banging in the crowd, and it was a lot to handle.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, I was also 16 at the time.
You took it.
I was also 16 at the time. I want to make that clear. Maybe even 15.
I mean, they're probably just like rubbing each other, but yeah, sure. Finger banging.
Yeah,
okay.
You know what I'm saying. Whatever.
I don't know what you're saying. I'm actually calling out what you're saying is ridiculous, but why don't you move on?
It felt over the top and far too dirty for a bunch of
how old were you? 16. Maybe he was living that life, Jacob. You don't know.
15, 16, somewhere in there.
Just don't be giving all ravers a bad name. All right, continue.
No, just 16-year-old ravers. But yeah.
Stop. You're still talking about it. I've given you a way out 6 times.
Many outs.
No. Just you're good, Gage.
I'll keep swimming, dude. I don't need a rope. I'll just keep swimming.
Just keep going.
No worries. I'll swim back.
Digging it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was the first one that I remember specifically getting on a podcast feed, like, and having it. And I remember like he used to throw Rage Against the Machine songs in there, and like all sorts of weird, cool, fun stuff that I liked at the time. But then the one that I remember like first like really consuming regularly was this one called the Bandcamp Weekly. If you guys know what Bandcamp is, it is like a music selling platform that's alternate to like iTunes or something like that, and it's it concentrates on a lot of like really indie music. So you can self-publish stuff on the platform itself, and Andrew Jervis, who's the host of it, is just really like he's got just a great radio voice, and he's got really eclectic and cool music taste. So it's all music from Bandcamp itself, and I've found so much good music from it over the years. It happens weekly. There's really good interviews with artists and stuff on there. There's usually like a featured artist for the week, but it's usually like almost an hour long of music. So there's usually like between like 6 and 10 tracks on there sometimes, and it's just a really good podcast. So I've still listened to it for a long time. I fall on and off about it, but yeah, I think that was the first one really. What about you, Jacob? What do you got for us first podcasts?
So I wasn't interested in podcasts at all for a long time. I was like, I just listen to music. What do I need podcasts for? Like listen to people.
That's why my first ones were all music, because it was just about music.
And I probably listen to music podcasts too, but because I don't qualify that as a podcast, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you about Wizard and the Bruiser, which is the first real podcast that's a friend of mine, John Harker, got me into it. He was like, dude, you just got to listen to it. Because everybody at work was listening to Last Podcast on the Left, another show I really like, which I'll talk about a little later. But he was like, yeah, Wizard and the Bruiser, it's like same network, but they talk about nerdy shit. You like gorillas, right? And I said, yeah. So I listened to the episode where they just talked about the gorillas, and I just found it to be really interesting, and ended up listening to like every single episode that was available. So yeah, it's you know, it's funny. It's Holden McNeely, who's this self-described lizard person who's ridiculous, and Jake Young, who's like a massive like fucking art pretentious type of nerd Jew guy, right? But they're both really funny as a couple guys. They do like random improv and stuff, but they essentially just tell the history of stuff. Like they pick a different nerdy topic every week, so it's really interesting. Definitely check it out if you like nerdy shit. Mystery, like they just did a Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode that I like, that just kind of talked about the history and the drama. They did BattleBots, which is what got me to like give it a chance. Now I'm obsessed with it. It's just kind of a good way to like just learn about things that you might not know about, and then you'll eventually be like, oh, I'll try that out. And then you end up getting obsessed with like Rubik's cubes because of this podcast. But yeah,
they're good like intro to a topic if it's like something you want to learn about, or if it's something that you already like and then they just nerd about it a lot. So that's cool.
Yeah, or it's something you like and then they butcher it, and then you're just mad, and then you don't like, you say, I'm not listening to this anymore, because they've done that.
Oh
yeah,
like this opinion is so bad I can't listen to this. Like they did a Sony versus Xbox episode, and they were just, you know, like just, I can't listen to that. I'm already inundated with the fucking gamer wars. I just don't want that topic. So,
yeah,
but hey,
agreed.
Every other episode's good.
also personally for me, and it's nothing against him, I feel bad for saying this in some ways, but I've always hated Holden McNeely's voice. I just like, it really rubs me the wrong way.
I get it. Yeah,
so I have a hard time listening to, like, even he's been on a few last podcasts on the list episodes, and I'm like, I'm not listening to
it. with Holden, you either like it or you don't. Like, he's a massive character.
Totally.
But if you can kind of get his humor, then it's cool. But I mean, same goes with last podcast, and we'll talk about them. They're kind of like, you like them or you don't. It's that simple. There's no in between. Like, Joy fucking hates that podcast, and every time, like, I had it playing while we were driving from California, and she was like, I don't know how you could listen to those guys. And I was like, listen to every episode. I like consume all their content. I don't know.
I would agree with her, and I would say that it's not the way they sound. It's just I did not like them. I did not find them funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're either into it or you're not, and that's fair. No. But that's the thing. Like, that's the thing about, and now getting more into like the podcast topic anyway, right? Like, yeah, I think that the personalities, or like just the human beings talking, like, that is what defines the podcast. Like, if you're gonna like it or not. Like, if you just don't even like the people and you don't get it, or you don't vibe with it, then just like, there's people in the world that I see and I go, I don't like that person. They fucking annoy me. You know what I mean?
I mean, podcasts are. Jerry says, like Joe, I cannot stand. It's one of those things where podcasting is like oddly intimate, because like. Because you really are like just spending time with a person, you know, like in a lot of ways, like one of the ways, and we'll talk about Kinda Funny later, but you know, sometimes you start to feel like you end up knowing this person. Like, certainly with last podcast, I've consumed so much of that podcast that it's like, I feel like I had to jump in a room with Henry Zabowski, like we would just have, or Marcus Parks, like we would just have a conversation that would feel very like pretty natural, just because I would just kind of understand what they're probably going to like say in response to something that I say. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like you learn someone's diction and cadence so much that you're like, I feel like I've had many conversations with you, even though I've never said a word to you in your life. So it's weird that way, for sure. Yeah, you know, there's so many different kinds of podcasts. It's funny. I find that like talking about podcasts on road trips, I feel like I'm really self-conscious with like, if I'm with other people, like playing a certain podcast that I listen to, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh, you're going to judge me hard based on what podcast I am listening to. You know, like, especially my nerdy shit, you know how it goes. But
yeah. That's great.
But one of my favorite podcasts is, we've talked about it before. It actually came up recently on the Eclipse episode, but Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, which is a different kind of podcast because it's really long form. I mean, they're literally like 3 to 6 hour episodes, and then they're usually like a 1 to 4 or like 2 to 4 part series. So it means that by the end of it, it's been a 20-hour saga. You know what I mean? They're also on like the extremes of human history. So war, or he did one called Painfotainment that was all about like public torture and execution. He did one all about World War II, but it was about the island hopping campaign in World War II. He's done stuff about like the Celtic Holocaust, which is like, about like, Middle Ages stuff going on. All sorts of, one about nuclear weapons. That's like the most terrifying couple hours of your life if you listen to it, but it's phenomenal and riveting for sure. I used to listen to it when I used to trim cannabis products as a young kid making some money back in the day. But you get so bored trimming weed that because you're sitting there for 14-hour days most of the time and just just crushing through it, and so like you need entertainment because otherwise you'll go insane. So these used to save my life back in the day, and now I listen to him falling asleep sometimes because his voice is just so good and low and intense like that. Again,
I don't like it.
Again and again. I think you really would like it. He's
Deeper
more of a
and
storyteller
deeper.
than he is he's more of a storyteller than he is a historian. He's his self-proclaimed like history lover, but not historian. So like, his facts are for the most part accurate. I think some people give him criticism on like playing up the drama of things a little bit more sometimes, but he always kind of like tells you when he's like going into more of like the color of something than the facts of it. But still, it's really cool. Wow, really? There's an again shirt? Shut up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I thought I just noticed. Again and again. That's how he says again.
Nice.
It's good stuff.
Cool.
Well, what about I know last podcast is one of your favorites, Jacob.
yeah. So
what first drew you to them? I guess just true crime and shit like that.
So like I said, it's my coworkers, like, the same ones that were trying to get me to listen to Wizard and the Bruiser were like always talking about last podcast on the left. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like edgy, whatever, like dark stuff. But I mean, well, this is the current lineup. Ed, why can't I ever fucking remember his name? Ed.
I can't remember.
He's the ham man. I know that much. But no, Marcus Parks and
Henry Zabrowski, and it used to be Ben Kissel.
Used to be
but
Ben
no longer.
Kissel. Yeah, but there was like a bunch of like Ben Kissel was getting really drunk and doing like like fucked up shit to women, and so there was a lot of drama, and he essentially got booted from the team, and he's like, I heard he's like fully divesting from like his ownership, so he's like gonna fully be out. So this is the new squad, and if you're interested in the podcast, it is they take on like dark topics, weird topics, so serial killers, hauntings, UFOs,
strange, like big strangeness, like not conspiracies necessarily, but like
no, they do that too.
like
they do that
like
too.
The men in black or things like that. You know what I mean?
They just did the Lizard Men. The guy who fucking coined that whole thing, and that was like a ridiculous series. But they're basically their mission is to take these scary people and scary things and boil it down to like what it really is, which is just kind of goofy, funny people, or with serial killers, pathetic pieces of shit who you shouldn't be scared of, people who've done scary things because they can't amount to anything else in their lives. And so they just spend a bunch of time just like making fun of them. But you also get the grisly details. And I like that, like usually with
our territory.
Yeah. Usually with like, even with documentaries, like they're you're like, oh, people were murdered, and you might see some pictures of stuff, but like you don't hear exactly what they did, and they cover that stuff. And so like for me, it's informative and funny. I've learned a lot about a lot of topics like this from these guys, and I think they're hilarious. But again, it's like you listen to them if if by like minute 10 you're like, I'm annoyed, these guys are lame, like fuck this, like I get it, you know, I understand they're really over the top and it's just like a specific type of person, but if you find it interesting, go for it. And I could always provide like specific episodes and series to check out. But
if
they've
you like
covered so many things.
If you're more of like a musically inclined person, the first ever series that I listened to was the Norwegian black metal series.
Yeah,
and
really good
just
series.
so fucking hilarious. I mean, like, you know, the way that they just make fun of, because, you know, there was some fucked up shit that happened for sure. But like the way they just make fun of all the dorks that did all of the stuff in the Norwegian black metal scene, is fucking hilarious to me, and like so that's what instantly turned me on to them.
Yeah, right now they're in the middle of a series called the Snowtown Murders, which is these murders in Australia. It was a bunch of these white trash people that were trying to hunt and kill pedophiles. At least that's what they said at first. But then they just started like equating gay people with pedophiles, and then they had just eventually just started murdering people who like knew too much anyway and would just like try to make them seem like a pedophile or something. So like obviously horrible people, they did fucked up shit, but they're a whole bunch of bumbling like fucking white trash people. But yeah, they have a whole bunch of other stuff. David Icke, that's a Reptilians one. They did an episode on haunted dolls. You know what I mean? Like they do. It's just a good blend of weird, fucked up shit. So I recommend this podcast if you're into dark, you know, weird stuff like I am.
Yeah, hell yeah, Miguel. What kind of stuff are you listening to on podcasts when you're going there?
It's mainly like I like Heavyweight, Jonathan Goldstein. It was a Spotify podcast at one point, but it's no longer a Spotify podcast, which I'm kind of happy about, is they still have Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan can suck a dick. So essentially the whole concept of the show is Jonathan Goldstein will have awkward conversations for people that don't want to have them.
Okay.
So like he will get two people who have wanted to have a conversation or have like a hard conversation. He will get them together and actually have that conversation. So there's some really, really good episodes on that show. I highly recommend it.
Cool.
He does a really good job. John K. Sampson does the music, or some of the music, if I'm not mistaken. He's the guy from the Week With Ends.
Huh.
So overall, it's a really good show if you're into that type of thing. Obviously, it's a lot of just people talking. And it's like there's one episode where the guy who apparently, you know, Moby's big album.
Yeah,
Moby had been listening to like a bunch of like African beats, like this like just like set, right? And this dude was the dude who lent it to him.
Oh
and
shit!
He never actually, and they had like a falling out or something, right? So then he gets Moby and him talking.
Wow,
so it's really cool, dude.
That's really cool.
So there's like a lot of stuff. It's not all famous people, obviously. There's just people who like. There was one episode where the guy was like, "I want to find. I think my kindergarten teacher was stealing my cheese." Right?
Awesome.
In Canada. So they find the fucking kindergarten teacher, and it turns out, yeah, she was stealing the cheese, and she was doing it on purpose. And there's like stuff like that. So it's really interesting stuff if you're into that. So I like that show. Science Versus is on there, which when you were going through those, that was also a Gimlet podcast. I don't think it is anymore.
Gimlet's a good, that's a good network for sure.
Gimlet's good, yes, but Spotify bought Gimlet, and Spotify can suck a dick.
Yeah, fuck you, Spotify.
In general, I'm pretty. Even though I use Spotify, in general,
I use it too.
I'm pretty like about it. Well, I don't like them as an organization.
Not for podcasting, for sure.
But Science Versus
definitely not for podcasting.
No, absolutely not. I don't use them for podcasts at all. The fact that they even try is a little sad to me.
It's just a bad. It's also just a bad interface for podcasts.
Yeah.
There's just like you just can't find all your stuff or keep any track of anything.
It's pointless.
There was just like the last podcast network, like their whole network was locked on Spotify for a while, so that's why I know about it. Otherwise, I just use Podcast Addict on Android. Use that. Sorry,
I just used the default Apple podcast.
Yeah, which is that's. I mean, if you have an iPhone,
it's fine on Apple. Yeah,
yeah, it's totally fine. But Science Versus is a really good show too. That one they basically take like a fad or something, like a topic, and basically see what science has to say about it. So
Oh, cool.
really good episodes of abortion. There was a whole series of COVID-19.
I'm sure.
During COVID, obviously. They've done a bunch of other stuff. So originally it was an Australian podcast.
Huh.
And the podcaster, Wendy Zuckerman, she's a science journalist, ended up moving to New York City when it became a Gimlet show. And then now she ended up going back to Australia, and they do half of it in America, half of it in Australia. So they have teams in both countries. So it's pretty cool. And they talk to a lot of scientists and stuff. So that's a really good show if you haven't seen it yet. There's one on psychedelics. There's a bunch of stuff, dude.
Yeah,
it's a good show.
I see a cannabis one right here.
Super informative,
I enjoy
I'm
that.
sure.
Nice.
That's cool.
I enjoy that show quite a bit.
I'm adding that right now.
There's an Australian podcast called Human Ordinary that ended a few years back, which was kind of like Heavyweight, but not really. It was just kind of like a dude telling stories, different types of stories, about people, obviously. And I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of the stuff I like seems to be more like about people.
Human
And that goes to my
stories.
like. Yeah, exactly. That goes to my like with like slice of life anime. That's like the genre I like the most. So
IQ,
it makes
Miguel.
sense that I listen to all this.
It's like
stuff.
the ultimate
IQ.
form of people watching, dude.
Watch IQ. It's so good.
Like it absolutely is like the ultimate form of people watching.
I know because I
So
like
I
it
think-
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Similar.
But Human Ordinary, it was a great fucking show. It was on. I was a little sad that he stopped doing it, but really great. I really enjoyed the shit out of it.
Nice.
There's a bunch of shows. I mean, I've to be honest with you, I've fallen off since I lost my AirPods. I haven't been listening to many podcasts as of recently since like December. But what else? Let me see. Let me check the app real quick.
Well,
Those are the ones I could think of.
let's see what Steven's got real quick while you look that up.
One of the ones that like really made me love podcasts, like obviously, I think we'll talk about this a little later. Is maybe I'll just jump on now. Is Hello from the Magic Tavern, right?
Oh, totally. Hell yeah.
This was one that I could not stop listening to.
God, it's so fun.
Yay.
It's so
That's one of
easy.
mine, dude. Yeah, hell yeah.
Originally, I didn't put it on my list, but I saw it on there and I'm like, yeah, I have to say something.
We got to talk about this. Got to talk about this.
but you know, it's like I listened to it for work to get me through work, and then caught myself listening to it outside of work when I didn't need to listen to it because it was that good, right?
Totally.
And I didn't want to stop. It's just the comedy is on point every single episode. I'm cracking the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like a bit of escapism that you don't get, and storytelling that it's good but also funny, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So
Weirdly good.
The premise for this podcast is that a guy fell through a portal behind a Burger King, which, by the way, that Burger King no longer exists now. Which they've addressed. They've addressed in. Now you got a cup. They have addressed in recent episodes that they're like, oh, but we're still getting the Wi-Fi signal, so I think it's whatever. And like they've named a couple other places like around that block. But people would actually go to that Burger King, and I think there was like some graffiti or like stickers there as like a kind of a Easter egg. But yeah, so he falls into a portal into a magical realm. But he has his car and his podcasting equipment, and so he's just in a tavern, like just interviewing magical creatures and stuff. And he eventually befriends a wizard and a shapeshifter who's always a badger. And every episode, like they could be
It's
doing
mostly a badger. He's occasionally other animals, but for very brief times usually.
Well, I don't know how far you guys are in the, like, I listen to this every single week. I've heard every single episode and certain ones multiple times. So like things have changed and evolved over time. But with Chunt, the shapeshifter, he, the only way he could shapeshift is if he has sex with the animal first.
Oh, that's right.
Which later on that kind of changes. A little bit of a spoiler.
But it usually means that like it's pretty that there's a funny story behind why he's a different animal. And then also sometimes they don't really notice that he's even there because they're just so used to him being a badger, and there's like, what they like, oh yeah, there's just this horse sitting here.
Yeah, the alligator one was one of the funniest ones where like there's an alligator. Why is there an alligator sitting at the table? and
Yeah.
it's fucking chunt. But like later on, like again, the way he shapeshifts is different, and I don't want to spoil that. But it's a really good show. I recommend. You literally can just put on an episode, and they explain what's happening every time. But
Yeah.
it really pays off if you start at the beginning. But it's all improv. It's long form improv. These guys all live in Chicago. And the interesting thing about this group of people, especially Arnie Niekamp, the host of the show, is he's the creative director at fucking Jackbox Games.
Yeah.
So they make all of the Jackbox packs and stuff. And Flower works there too. And she, I saw her tweeting that actor or that improviser lady. I always forget her name. But she was tweeting that she's super involved in the new Jackbox party pack coming out, the
adult
naughty
pack?
one.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Jackbox naughty pack. Yeah. So
Flower is to this day my favorite side character
She's
on the
great.
show. She's just so fucking funny. Like just her hatred and just dissing of everyone is so good.
Same thing with Momo the Mouse, which is Aaron Keefe, who's on Al Rafai, Chunt the Badger's other podcast, Hey Riddle Riddle, which is also really good. But if you just want some comedy and you like Lord of the Rings and fantasy stuff, like this is just such a good show to just put on and just kind of laugh at. And like they build upon the world, and they just have so many guests, and like even later they get on a lot of famous people and like actors and like amazing comedians and stuff. You name it, they've probably already guested on this podcast.
Yeah,
So-
you get some pretty darn famous people in there too randomly. Like
Yeah. And it's always fucking funny when they do too.
So good. Yeah. I mean, they got, what's his name? You know, Sonic the Hedgehog. What's that guy's name? Ben.
oh
whatever.
yeah, Ben.
He was on an episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Ron Funches was on an episode. I mean, you know, like there's so many people.
Even their live ones are really funny still too.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole like inner narrative that's happening where there's like this kind of intro to the podcast / outro to the podcast where there's like this
Tim
sort of
Sniffen.
interdimensional like sort of watcher that's kind of like checking it all out.
Yeah,
Anyways,
he's like-
it gets pretty meta for sure.
Some Mysterious Man, I think is what his name is technically. Tim Sniffen. But
That gets funny too.
he's hilarious. He's great. And
And his aides, like the delivery dude who gets stuck there for a long time. He's great.
Yeah, and then there's also a girl that there's so much shit going on with that show. It's so good. Like
It's really creative.
I can't
It's really
recommend. They are turning it into a TV show too, so you can enjoy it that way.
Yeah,
too.
that's crazy. It got picked up for. It's gonna be animated, I think.
Yeah, it's tied to like what's his name? Oh my god, the guy from Moon.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam
Rockwell.
Rockwell's production company is the one putting it on. Isn't that interesting?
Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm really stoked. Listen to the rest of them. Listen to all the episodes. I can't recommend
Yeah,
it enough.
I'll keep going. To be fair, I'm actually pretty far behind, but yeah.
Just more to go around.
Yeah, hell yeah. Anything else, Steven, on your main list? there?
My main list, my brother and me.
Oh yeah, classic.
I don't know, but they give bad advice, right? On like usually internet things they pull up, right? And they just read from like I don't know, they read from like classified sometimes too. And
Is
that's
Holden
fucking
McNeely
hilarious.
involved in that also?
What?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not to my knowledge.
Holden McNeely. I thought he was
No,
also
he
involved in that.
he might have guessed it on an episode. No, these are the
Maybe.
McElroy brothers.
McElroy brothers. They're pretty famous podcasters in general.
Yeah, they
And they
have
have another one too. Like,
yeah, they have a D&D actual play podcast. It's like really famous that they play
And
with
then
their dad.
they're also on Wait, Don't Tell Me, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, I'm sure they've been on there. The
I
McElroy
think
brothers
they're
are
hilarious.
really big
Like-
podcasters. Sorry, Steven.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just thought they were hilarious. Their dynamic is really fun.
Yeah. Their dad is like a kind of a famous like radio broadcaster.
Yeah.
That's how they got into podcasting, I think.
But yeah,
Are they on I can't remember the podcast network, but I listened to Judge John Hodgman that's also on there, I think.
I believe so. Yeah, they're part of a bigger network. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun with
Yeah.
Jesse Thorne, Bullseye with Jesse Thorne. I used to listen to that a lot.
This is the
Judge
network
John
right
Hodgman.
here. Yeah, all these. But Adventure Zone is the podcast they do with their dad,
Adventure
where they
Zone. I fucking love that show.
they play like they've done D&D, but they've done a bunch of other tabletop RPGs, and they always play with their dad. And so it's like my brother and me, but like at the table.
Yeah, I went to Bullseye Live, and Pharaoh Monch played. David Cross was there as the guest. That was fun.
Ooh, epic.
And Judge John Hodgman was also there as a guest, so that was fun. My wife and I met Judge John Hodgman, and she had a book signed by him and stuff. It's funny, but yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then one that we all, I think, or maybe not all, I don't know about Miguel if he's ever consumed any of this content, but I think a lot of the reasons, in fact, the reason that some of us know each other is through the Kinda Funny community. And Kinda Funny is a pretty gaming centric, but also just kind of weird comedy nerd stuff outside of it. Also, all ex IGN people. Greg Miller is obviously the kind of face of the whole thing, but Tim Geddes, Nick Scarpino, Kevin Coelho, Barrett Courtney. Now we have Blessing Out of UNA Jr. and Snowbike Mike and Roger Picorni. I'm missing people. Joey Noel, whatever. Everyone over there. It's just like, for me, it has become my main like gaming centric thing. I mean, I consume a lot of other IGN podcasts, some GameSpot stuff. In the past, there's been some Min-Max things and some Rooster Teeth stuff that I've listened to over the years. But at this point, my main like kind of gaming, nerddom has kind of fixated into mostly Kinda Funny content at this point. And I think a lot of us consume at least Kinda Funny games daily, pretty regularly.
Yeah, I'm
Is that right?
I'm in the Twitch chat every single fucking day.
You're low key the king of the Twitch chat.
Yeah,
This is true.
it's cool though.
Maybe like some
type really
Bender
fast.
SNs, some K-Bobs, some things like that.
Look, I'm not on the YouTube side of things where apparently you are, Gage, which is
I am.
That's the loser side of the pillow. We're the cool side of the pillow.
Ooh.
It's
to
just
say
because
that.
I have YouTube Premium, and so I get to watch without ads, and I can close
Yeah.
my screen
So you
at
get
work,
to-
which is nice.
You get to hang out with Kebab, so you could tell, or so they can tell us like another fact about Ratchet and Clank, because that's
Yeah,
all
for Christ's
Kebabs
sake.
ever wants to talk about.
And I got the Portland Kevin. The Portland Kevin is in the YouTube side. I got to meet him recently. That was fun. Shout out to Portland Kevin.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a weird and it's kind of a strange thing, and it's kind of like an odd thing to talk about, but like it is this weird corner of the internet that they've kind of like struck out to foster, and I think it is like one of my favorite parts of the internet in a weird way, and because of it, I feel like I've just like met a bunch of really cool people.
Yeah.
The fans of it call themselves Kinda Funny best friends, and the idea being that you spend so much time with these people in your head and in the chat and all this kind of stuff, and the idea is that so much of us have like-minded likes and passions, and because of that, you can just strike up a conversation with most of these people. I guested on Robert, or aka Mr. Hawks's podcast last night. That'll come out next week. The Storyboarders podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But like for the most part, with almost anyone, including Jacob and Steven, anyone I've pretty much met in the community for the most part, like it's just an easy, cool conversation that starts up pretty quickly and effortlessly. And so there's something really interesting about all that. And yet also sometimes I feel a little weird about it, but it's I don't know. It's just it's a weird but kind of fascinating segment of the internet. What do you guys think?
What do you feel weird about? What are you driving out there? What's the
I don't
matter,
know.
I
buddy?
think you've never met these people, I guess, in person, right? Is there something to that? But then there's like,
I mean,
also
I've never met
just
you.
implicitly.
I never
talk
met
to
you
people,
guys in
right?
person. You know,
All right.
On the face of all of it, I absolutely love it. I think it's like it's like the true meaning of what the internet should do. It should bring people together over their joint passions or hobbies or loves. It should be a place where people can communicate and come together as communities and like form relationships across geographical and social barriers. But there's just this little tiny element in my mind that feels like a little bit hesitant and like almost, no one take this the wrong way, but like a little culty at times. Like You know what I mean? Like a little bit.
Yeah.
There's these moments in Kind of Funny history that have happened, like when Colin left, and some like cancel culture-y stuff, and whatever, just some weird little things in which that I occasionally just feel a little bit like, do I like this too much, or is there like a little bit too much blind faith or something? I don't know what it is. It's just, you know what I mean? Does anyone pick up on that at all, or am I off base?
No, you're totally on it, dude. You're absolutely on it.
Okay.
Miguel, from the outside, what do you think about this kind of stuff?
I have no interest, to be 100% honest with you.
But I mean, just like the interest,
I
just in general, like when it comes to like YouTubers and communities like this stuff.
I have never understood it personally.
Yeah.
I cannot make friends online. I never have. Because at the end of the day, for me, relationships. Well, this is a little different because I talk to you guys on a weekly basis, and I know Jacob in person.
Yeah, totally.
Because I mean, are they really your friends? They're people you know on the internet, right?
Yeah.
And for me, a relationship is a little bit more than that, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong; like, I have no issue with talking to people online and being friendly and making a friend, but at the same time, like, I'm not calling you when I have an actual issue.
Yeah, I hear that.
Like,
I hear that.
You can't come help me when I need something. So, like, and really, it's like Facebook. Like, I never understood Facebook. You can have 8 million Facebook friends, but are you really friends with these people? At the end of the day, in my opinion, you are not. Like, you look back at the way things were before the internet, and you had what? Like, most people had 8 really good friends.
I'd say even like 3 to 4 really good friends, and then
exactly.
Maybe
like
less,
you were lucky. You were lucky if you had 8, right?
Yeah, I think
so. Like, and I'm not saying that I don't think it's a good thing, because I do think it's a good thing, but I also feel like because people have all these other people to talk to online, they don't make friends in real life. And in my opinion, personally, I'd rather game with people like in the same fucking room. Right? Like, that's just how I am. That's how I've always been about it.
Yeah. I think it's more of just like the question.
I've never understood it.
The question that I'm asking more is like the like how we idolize or really are just into these internet personas, rather than like you're really into a show. You watch a show, you like the show, and you're like, yay. But these are like just people doing like a daily podcast about video games. And I kind of see where you're coming from, Gage, to say it's cult-like, because everyone knows like every little thing. I mean, like, same thing with Mega 64. Like, I'm really into that. I'm really into those guys. I know their cadence and stuff.
There's a bunch of communities like this. You know what I mean? Rooster Teeth was that way for a while, you know.
I think that you were touching upon this perfectly earlier, where you were saying like there's this intimate factor with people you don't really know, like to Miguel's point, right? But you feel like you do because you spend hours listening to what they say. They talk about personal shit. You know what's going on in their personal lives. You know how they talk and communicate. You know, you feel connected to them. And so is it literally like, listen to that song, Cult of Personality. Like, that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. Totally. It's just like, we're not mobilized and we're not like changing our lives. We're not like giving all our wealth away and living in a commune. So it's not that kind of cult, but it is a cult of personality for sure. And it is a community of people driven by that, you know?
I would say that's probably why most of the content I consume on podcasts is not really that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. It's almost like the news.
It's more like, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's generally what I consume personally, right? Like, it's just a matter of, I don't know, like it's just, I mean, like I said, I don't feel like it's for me. I've never, let's put it this way. I've seen communities. Do I engage? No, I'm usually the lurker, right?
Yeah, totally.
And fine. I'm not saying you can't make friends, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying you can't meet some cool people. Foxy Steve was a cool dude.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd rather much rather meet you in person and hang out with you and kind of get that kind of vibe, especially see, it's a little different with you guys because I actually see your faces.
Totally.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Whereas it's just words on a screen most of the time, right? I don't fucking know you. And I'm not saying I'm not open to knowing you, but at the same time, I don't feel I'm not going to make the effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just who I am.
Yeah.
No, I hear it.
And it is what it is, man.
Mm-hmm.
There is inherent boundaries with that. Yeah, but it's interesting. It's like I never engaged with, like, for instance, Twitter until I started becoming, like, kind of interacting with the Kind of Funny chat and stuff like that. Because all of a sudden I went onto Twitter and had all of these Kind of Funny best friends who were, talking about stuff that I also was interested in. And then I also started following all these games journalists and, all these different kind of peripheral, games influencery, not even necessarily influencery, but, whatever, media personalities. And the cool thing that started to happen with Twitter is when I would comment on, like, a Tamor Hussein's thing, or Gab Murphy from the IGN UK podcast, or Barb Dunkelman from, like, that kind of stuff, I would oftentimes get responses from those people. And even though they're not, like, quote unquote famous, there is that little bit of, like, dopamine hit that happens when you're like, oh, I'm just communicating with someone that, like, does a thing that I recognize as being successful or cool or whatever it is, and I don't know, it's there's a weird sort of feeling that happens with that, but it is, like, a gratifying feeling. And even just Twitch in general, the first time I went on my, like, this is a weird thing, but a friend of mine who I used to live with, he's a musician, he's a brilliant musician, and he's, like, one of the best, like, synth programmers I've ever met in my life, right? And he started this Twitch channel. Him and his significant other, now ex-significant other, would go on and create a song from scratch and involve the Twitch chat in the creation of the song. And it was all, like, synth programming and lots of Ableton use and kind of stuff like that. And, like, I remember going on his Twitch channel and, like, saying something in the chat and just, like, having him talk back to me through the chat and feeling this feeling of, like,
it's a hit of dopamine.
This really inclusion thing that happens. And I just remember being like, wait, I fucking lived with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I need to, but there's this thing about it. I don't know. Yeah. It's just an interesting thing. And yet I'm so grateful for it because I'm able to do this podcast with you guys because of something like that. It's such a cool, unique thing.
For Kind of Funny for me, like, I just was looking for a gamer podcast. I tried Giant Bomb. It was too long. And I found Gamescast, and I was like, oh, they're talking about, like, a different game every week, whatever. Sometimes I'd listen. And then I found Games Daily in the YouTube channel, and that was it for me, because I was like, oh, because, like, there was a time when I sat down and I was, like, talking to Joy, and I'm like, look, man, I just, like, I have great friends in my life, but, like, nobody's really, like, nerdy or, like, super gamery. Yeah. Like, I need an outlet for this extra shit, like, in my life. I have great friends. It's just that I need someone to be like, dude, let me tell you about E4 or E3 this year. Like, I'm so excited, Yeah. And so then, you find this podcast, which leads to this community of people. All of a sudden now I have a million people to talk about with this stuff, and we have this Discord full of really cool people. We got in the chat Arturo Robo Bartender, who I played Sea of Thieves with last night, who I wouldn't have known. You know what I mean? And these two guys right here, I mean, Miguel and I wanted to start this podcast from the very beginning, but now all four of us, I feel like we have a lot of different interests and stuff, and it's it's cool to have, like, that. And so, like, for that, I'm really thankful for Kind of Funny. Now, do I agree with everything that they say on the podcast? No, I don't. They're very fucking Sony focused. You know what I mean? They shit on PC gaming all the time. I'm a PC gamer. You know what I mean? But it's just like having those nerdy friends that talk shit. You know what I mean? And
exactly, your homie is talking shit to you.
Yeah, and but like at the end of the day, I'm just kind of hanging out and with some nerds, and like even the people, Kind of Funny themselves are just a bunch of nerds. They're just like cool dudes who have connections and can talk to like Todd Howard for an hour or whatever, and that's just like an interesting conversation to like listen to. And and Blessing and Snowbike Mike with the X-Cast, Gary Whitta, like. And then Janet Garcia, like plenty of like female voices too that I didn't know. Alana Pierce,
she's so cool.
Just so many.
I met her at Kind of Funny prom, and like had a really good conversation with her, and that was just like really inspiring. I was just like, holy shit, cool! I just met this person who, again, isn't famous or anything, but she does work on things like God of War Ragnarok, which is like something I idolize. You know, it's like a piece of art that I love. You know, whatever in whatever small way that she did, but you know, it's like that kind of stuff is. It's just like it feels like it's engaging with the medium that we love in a kind of more direct way, and there's something kind of gratifying about that. You know what I mean?
Yep. So yeah, I think that's the kind of funny talk for you. Also, by the way, it's funny when Blessing reads my chats and talks shit. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
It happened twice in one day with the other day. He's like, "Oh, Jesus said this. What the fuck, man?" You know what I mean?
There are these weird little moments. I wrote in a story to Kind of Funny Games Daily that is fucking it was just a fucking hilarious time, you know. And like I got Tim so hard on it, and so it's just it's cool. They have a cool reciprocating relationship with their community, and like Arturo was saying earlier, like, you know, finding us through them, and like now there's these kind of subsects of the internet in which like all the Kind of Funny, you know, it's fandom, whatever it is. And I'm sure there's plenty of fandom communities that I'm not a part of that feel the same way, where they're like, thank God I have all these people in my life that love Marvel or love whatever, the Star Trek or whatever the fuck it is.
I'm about to be a BattleBots influencer, man. Just you wait.
There you go, bro. There you go. You're going to be up on the scene.
Make it happen, dude.
Hell yeah. But that's cool. Well, I'm happy we got to talk about that because it is one of those kind of things. Like it's such a unique and random thing in my life. You know what I mean? But it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something I do every day from 10 to 11. I listen to those fools and I just chat with people, and I try to come up with a fun ad question every day that's related to what we're talking about. You know, and just chat with people.
Oh yeah, you kill those ad questions. You know what I mean? And you know, when I first moved to New York City. Right before I had met my now spouse and baby mama Aishu, sometimes in the chat as Drunken Monkey, shout out to you if you're there. But you know, I was pretty lonely because I have a ton of really good friends that I talk to all the time that I, you know, either grew up with or met later in life or whatever. But when I first moved to New York, I knew like 3 people, and they were like friends, but not like that close of friends. You know what I mean? And I just remember like exploring that city with a podcast in my ear all the time, and honest to God, like it kind of kept me from feeling extra lonely sometimes, you know, which is a weird kind of vulnerable thing to say, but I don't know, there's something about it where you're just like, oh, it's some sort of human connection in some sort of way.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways,
cool. Do we have any other podcasts that we want to mention?
Quick nods are Crime Town, which is part of that Gimlet network, which I feel like does make a lot of good content, but yeah.
Nice.
It's good stuff.
Real quick, I wanted to run through a couple of things. This is from Podcast Charts. I don't know exactly how it's from chartable.com. I don't know exactly where they get their data from, but I was just looking at video games podcasts this week, and the top ones are right now Fallout Lorecast, which is a Fallout video game and TV lore podcast. So that's obviously riding the high of Fallout TV show. Kind of Funny Games Cast is right below there. Kind of Funny Games Daily is right below that. Then we have something called Save Your Game, which I've never heard of. But then you have IGN Game Scoop.
Yep.
And then below that you have Join the Lobby, Toy Federation podcast, and then the Besties, which is a
see, it's the McElroys.
It's the McElroys. They're around, yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. Just and then as far as the top podcast of 2023, as far as Apple Podcast goes. The top 10 are as follows.
Hold on, wait. Wizard and the Bruiser, number 11.
Number 11
on the gamer podcast list. See, they're pretty good. Giant Bomb is 14th, and No Clip is 15. Just have to shout those out too. Okay, go ahead.
Oh yeah, No Clip. Shout out to Danny O'Dwyer.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's funny that the Kind of Funny podcast shows up here because that's specifically for them, not about games, but that's all right. And then, you know, shout out to Nintendo Voice Stat, which I love, and
IGN, yeah.
And then down at 21, you got Sacred Symbols, the He Who Shall Not Be Named. No, I'm just kidding. It's Colin's podcast.
Unlocked. Yeah. Some good stuff. Min-Max, yeah. Gamer shit.
Totally.
Gamer shit, lots of it.
But yeah, as far as not game goes, the top shows of Apple podcast in 2023 were Crime Junkie, The Daily, Dateline, NBC podcast, Smartless, This American Life, Morbid, Up First, which is NPR's like little mini news podcast, Huberman Lab, Hidden Brain, and Stuff You Should Know. So
nice.
Some of those I've certainly listened to. I used to listen to Stuff You Should Know a long time and a lot back in the day. But
Crime Junkie sucks. Sorry, Crime Junkie, you suck. Listen to Case File True Crime instead. best fucking true crime podcast. One of the best true crime things on the planet. They're Australian. It's an excellent podcast, Miguel. Definitely listen to it. They go through the nitty-gritty details, and then they have like a composer making music in the background. Morbid is also good, by the way.
Cool.
I think
there's such a true crime, facet of the podcast world. I used to be really into it, and then I fell off a little bit. Yeah.
Scamanda.
A cab except for the Omega Cops. So funny thing about that, Arturo, I have an Omega Cop shirt, and I just feel like I can't wear it anymore just because it has cops on it. I've been really into GameScoop throughout the years. Damon Hatfield is like the IGN OG, so it's a good one.
It's not.
So
this movie.
There's some grumpy Gus's on there. No, Omega Cops is a what is it called? An anagram? What is it when you shift the letters around?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Anagram of GameScoop.
Oh, Tina Amini.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
she's cool.
It's a good show.
I like Tina Amini.
Now no longer on that show. She's
fucking
Xbox proprietary podcast.
Yeah, that's why I know her. I'm the Xbox guy. Nice.
Hell yeah. Well, anyways, that's just some quick stats about podcasts. Always good.
I see you also had important if true written down. Gage.
Oh, sure. I'll just mention that really fast. So there is this podcast network called Idle Thumbs Network. There's a ton of great stuff on there. A games podcast called the Idle Thumbs Podcast used to be on there. This is the Campo Santo guys started this along with Steve Gaynor, who now has come under some kind of controversial stuff, but not really. He just was like a bad boss, it sounded like. But these are the Half-Life Alyx dudes and Campo Santo Firewatch guys. They started this podcast called Important If True. I listen to it about once a year, even though it's over, because they got bought by Valve and now they're too busy doing whatever they do for Valve to do this podcasting stuff anymore. Which is a sad thing. But this whole thing was that they go through different like technology or strange new happenings in the world of tech, or just strange modern kind of futurist things that are happening in the world, and they try and just like glean something important out of it. Like if it see if they can find meaning in it in some way. It's mostly just hilarious, and they're fucking hilarious people. And spoiler, kind of, I may have sort of jacked endorsements from this podcast, but it doesn't exist anymore. And their endorsements used to just always be really funny stuff, because it was like they were just old weirdos, San Francisco weirdos, so they would endorse things like, I don't know, like a certain type of mustard or something from somewhere, and there's just an element of it that I like. And it's a really good podcast. You could probably go back and listen to it without having ever listened to it before and be really entertained. I think there's like 50 episodes, so
yeah, for sure. Cool, I'll check it out. I'll get
it's good. If you like the first 2 episodes, you'll like the whole thing, kind of thing, I think we were maybe going to talk about what it's like to actually create a podcast and stuff, but I think we could save that for another time. Maybe we'll do like a Q&A episode or something like that. You know what I mean? Like something along the lines of putting this show together and our other content, because that in and of itself is like a whole topic, I think, so
yeah, like we could do the production episode when it's like,
exactly.
See, but it's like, Miguel, it's like that episode of Reading Rainbow where they showed the set of Star Trek Next Generation. Remember that shit?
Oh, it's not that cool, dude.
I mean, if I could, LeVar Burton is my fucking hero.
Sorry, guys, I like you, but it's definitely not that cool.
Yeah, LeVar Burton is literally my hero.
Kid, man.
Have you ever seen the?
No, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
Have you ever seen Jimmy Fallon doing the Reading Rainbow song as Jim Morrison from the Doors? It's worth a watch if you ever want to.
I don't like Jimmy Fallon.
I also don't like him, but this particular sketch is funny. That's all. I'll say.
All right, I'll look it up.
I actually kind of
we'll have to take your word for it.
I actually started a rumor on this April Fool's about Jimmy Fallon being dead, but it didn't really stick.
Misinformation.
Misinformation. Well, April Fool's jokes aside.
Yeah.
But yes. Well, without further ado, without further ado, let's get into our endorsements for the week.
Oh, bother.
Steven, what do you got for us as far as endorsements? And I can see no spoilers, but I can see ahead of time, and I agree.
Yeah, so my endorsement is just every once in a while order your groceries for delivery. And I did it for the first time like a week ago, about less than a week ago, maybe a little over, I don't know. Anyways, I ordered it from Walmart. It's pretty easy. I paid like $20 to get it delivered like within an hour and a half, right? And it was awesome. It was awesome.
Hell yeah.
It worked. Everything was there. I didn't have any problems.
I didn't
Nice.
do quite the same thing, but I did the Safeway thing where you can go and park in that one parking spot that's like close to the thing, and they just come out and bring you your whole list of groceries. And I was like, why haven't I been doing this for a long time? It would save me so much time. I just drop, whatever. Anyways,
Every time
I like grocery shopping is the problem, but
every time I've tried to do that, they're like, you can't do it till tomorrow, and I'm like, I need it now.
Oh, wait. So the one caveat would be like, I don't think you can order like a rotisserie chicken from there, and that way, because I think there's like food laws against it or some shit. I can't remember, but
interesting.
I tried to order it and it's like, nope, you can't do this. Your state laws prohibit this. I'm like, well, fuck,
That's
it's
random.
Utah.
It might be a weird Utah thing though, because Utah's weird about some stuff like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
That's cool. That's a great endorsement.
Nice.
Jacob, what you got?
Well, we talked about Kind of Funny earlier, and I just wanted to like endorse them because they just changed around their programming. So now they're gonna have a daily games cast. So check that out. If you are watching their daily weekday streams, if you just watch another hour, they'll have a games cast, and that's gonna kind of replace their PS I Love You and XCast shows. So like now I don't know. If you want more,
I'm liking it so far.
Kind of funny.
I for one am really happy about it. I fell off PS I Love You and XCast recently.
Kind of me too.
Like
redundant.
it just felt like they were just reaching for topics and stuff like that. And when it's like, don't limit yourself, just go for it. So
basically, I'm just saying they restructured, and I'm endorsing that just because I like the content, and this is the one time I'll actually endorse Kind of Funny because we've never really done that.
This is true.
Hell yeah,
True.
dude. Fuck yeah, Miguel, what you got for us?
Singapore noodles.
Holy
Pull that
shit!
shit up.
Is that a
Well,
place? There's
No,
a
dude, it's
No, it's a product.
Hype.
a
Okay.
dish.
oh
and they
okay
are-
okay
Oh, all right.
oh this is kind of like that
It's
Filipino
a noodle
dish.
stir fry. No, it's not like pancit at all, man. No, don't compare it.
Kinda. When Jeff makes
No.
it, it's got a bunch of stuff in it like this.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like pancit, but Singapore noodles, man.
I want to
It's
try
got
it.
curry powder. They're fucking delicious. Singapore noodles are great.
That sounds good.
If you have a chance, get them. Yeah, we've been making them. It's been good. We've been trying to find our curry powder that we like. So,
Do you have a specific recipe you use that we could share on the YouTube video?
Yeah, I could probably send you a link later.
Yeah, send me a link, man. We'll attach it description below. This is just some random one I found.
Yeah.
Looks good though.
Oh, they're fucking delicious, dude.
You do the shrimp every
Made
time?
right for- I mean, yeah, we have been. We've been doing the shrimp. But what's that place called? Ohana does a it's kind of like a Hawaiian version. But they use spam instead of the pork.
Cool.
It's pretty good.
Nice.
Shit.
Hell yeah, dude.
Ohana noodles.
Nope.
Nope.
Wrong one. Nope.
I tried to find
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Oh,
you were quick on the draw. I'll give you
Good
that.
job.
My endorsement this week is making a big batch of tea in a pitcher that I drink throughout the week. So what I've been doing is just taking a fuck ton of tea bags, or not a fuck ton, like five tea bags, throwing them in a big ass pitcher. You know what I'm saying? and then just like a little bit of honey in there. Also, I make it all hot, and then I just throw it in the fridge. And then throughout the week, I can just pour it, and I can either heat it up in the microwave if I want, or I can have a nice iced tea. I can add milk. I can add lemon. As I like. So it's just good. I'm off the coffee game. I haven't had coffee since my wife got pregnant, so it's been like a year and 9 months, a year and 8 months probably.
What kind of tea are you drinking?
Just black tea, either English breakfast or sometimes Constant Comment. I like that. It's got a little bit of an orange tint to it.
I do like the Constant Comment, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes an Earl Grey, whatever. But yeah, it's a good way to do it. Just make a big batch, and then you don't have to make tea on the fly. Or sometimes I like to sit there and steep my tea and stuff, but other times it's just easier to just have a glass. So that's my endorsement of the week.
My coworker, who's essentially the mother of the whole office, if you will, and like her name's Cinda, and like there's a thing in the kitchen that says Cinda's Kitchen because it's very much like that. She makes sun tea a lot at work, and so she'll just make the sun tea and set it in the windowsill, and I don't drink that shit.
Why not?
Tea's okay. All right, tea's fine. I just I don't want it.
Great.
But what you do with tea though, where you say you put it in a big pitcher and then put it in the fridge? I do that shit with coffee. Same thing. Nice. I just brew a shit ton of coffee. What?
I was gonna say cold brew is my thing that I just I can't make enough cold brew. That's what I'm saying.
Same thing, right?
I co-owned a cold brew business for a time in Brooklyn for like a couple of years. So I drank far too much cold brew, like 3 giant cold brews a day. It was awful. It was great, but it was awful.
Yeah, I don't do the cold brew. I just brew hot coffee. I put it in a milk jug and I just throw it in the fridge. And I might put cream in there preemptively, and then I just take that whole thing to work and then just pour it in a glass. And so it's just chilled iced coffee for the week. So same thing. Basically, you should just do that with whatever liquid you like.
Batch your caffeine. Yeah,
batch your caffeine and just pour it out, baby. And don't 100%. Drink fucking rock stars anymore, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob.
Cherry says I'm brave. She was on coffee for 5 days and going crazy. The first month was awful. I legitimately was having migraines, which I don't get. I was getting dizzy and woozy and weird and but then now if I drink 1 cup of regular drip coffee, I literally feel like I'm going to throw up, and I start getting cold sweats, and it's really crazy.
You drink an ounce of coffee and then you're like,
not taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I got to go slay Saruman, and put him on a spike, even though that doesn't happen in the book.
Bello.
Well, guys, it is 9:00 Pacific. That means this was Neon Pocket Dimension for the week. Thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on twitch.tv/Neon Pocket Dimension, subscribing, get cool emotes. Thanks for everyone who subbed this time, and thanks for spreading the love when you got love. That's amazing. You get ad-free viewing and cool emotes, and it supports us, which makes a huge difference to us. So we're a small little tiny crew making this happen. So, and then if you're watching on YouTube later, please give us a like or leave a comment. It helps us with our lifelong mortal combat against the algorithms themselves. So, you subscribe. That way you don't miss any of Steven's hilarious shorts, which thank you so much, dude. You've just been killing those lately, and they're so funny and good. And they remind us of all the, like Jacob was talking about with listening earlier. Sometimes at the end of a podcast, all the shit you talked about just goes into some archive in the back of your head, and you never remember about it until you bring it up again. So that's great. If you want more of the stuff from us, we have been doing a lot lately. I'm really proud of all of us. We've been making a lot of cool content and, working hard behind the scenes to figure out exactly the best way to get it to you. So Odd Valley Studios, where all things weird, wacky, and our drinking show, Odd Valley Tavern is. Jacob is the mastermind of that, but Miguel is a regular on that as well. And then for all things video games, like I talked about before, check out Neon Gaming Dimension. We've been making some cool stuff there, and really excited about summer content with covering Summer Games Fest and all the stuff that's going to happen with that. So stay tuned for a lot of good stuff coming out of there. And then from all of us at MPD, just thanks for being here and hanging out with us and making this weird little corner of the internet really special and cool. So, anyone have anything to say before we go? Maybe what is your favorite combination of colors? Let's go.
Purple.
No, not just purple. It has to be with something else.
It's red and blue.
No.
you're talking about
That's
pals?
purple.
He's not,
Like
no, he's
tan
saying
and
two different colors.
like tan and rust. Like what?
Yeah,
I can't do that.
Two of them
I
together.
was thinking what Jacob was thinking, but I understood what you meant.
Yeah.
I was right.
I like black and yellow a lot.
Black and yellow, black and yellow.
Black and yellow, black and yellow.
Yeah, but it is, I like that combination.
It is a good, totally.
I would say black with almost anything, to be honest with you. Black and blue, black and green,
black and red and blue.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would actually say probably like orange and blue.
My two colors these days is black and teal, or purple and teal together.
That's
Sort of
dope.
like my
That's
two colors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hell yeah. Cherry in the chat says green and purple, feeling very Hulkish
That's a
or
good one too.
Halloweenish.
Yep.
That's a Joker.
I like
the
like the 1997 Detroit Pistons, like the tealish thing, and then that kind of off red they had going on.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I stopped watching basketball in 1997, so that's like my reference.
That's the 90s. Have a
Yeah,
good night,
exactly.
everyone.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone. Bye. Much love.